Okay, let's dive into this. We all know, I think, about the issues with traditional plastics, right? The waste, the microplastics. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's a huge concern.
So this idea of plastics made from plants, starch-based ones, it sounds great. Like, finally, a better option that breaks down.
That was definitely the hope. Something greener.
But what if that greener choice isn't quite so green for our health? It's kind of what we're digging into today.
Exactly. There's some new research out, and honestly, it's a bit, well, concerning. It makes you rethink things.
It really does. So our mission here is to try and get a handle on what this research might mean for us, for our well-being.
Are these plant-based plastics actually safer for our bodies than the old petroleum ones? That's the core question, really.
So let's back up a bit. Why did we even start looking at plant starch plastics?
Well, the main driver was completely logical. It was all about tackling that massive microplastic pollution problem from traditional oil-based plastics.
Right, the stuff that just hangs around forever.
Exactly. The hope was these plant ones would, decompose more easily, break down faster in the environment, less long-term plastic soup.
Seemed like a solid plan. A real step forward, you'd think.
It did, but then this new study, it sort of throws a wrench in the works.
Yeah, this research from the American Chemical Society, it suggests maybe it's not the simple health upgrade we thought.
It makes you wonder, are we just swapping one kind of problem for another potential one?
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Tell us about the study itself. How did they set it up?
Sure. So the design is pretty interesting. They had 3 groups of mice, just 5 mice per group, so small groups.
Okay.
And they watched them over a 3-month period. One group got food that included these starch-based microplastics.
Right, mixed into their chow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And crucially, the amount wasn't just random. They scaled it to be roughly equivalent to what an average human might kind of consume daily.
Ah, okay. So that makes it relatable, connects it back to us.
Definitely. And then you had the control groups, one just getting normal mass food for comparison.
And the results. Well, they weren't exactly comforting, were they?
No, they really weren't. The mice that ate the starch-based microplastics, they showed quite a few worrying health effects.
Like actual physical damage.
Yes. We're talking damaged organs. Specifically, they mentioned livers and ovaries.
Wow, livers and ovaries. That sounds significant for overall health.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. The liver is vital for detoxification, metabolism.
And ovaries for hormones, reproduction.
Exactly. So disrupting those. That can have big knock-on effects throughout the body.
And it didn't stop there, did it? What else did they find?
Well, they also saw altered glucose management in these mice.
Which immediately makes you think about metabolism, how the body handles sugar, potential issues like diabetes down the line.
That's the concern. It suggests these microplastics could be interfering with, a really fundamental bodily process. It hints at potential metabolic problems.
And then there was something about gut bacteria.
Right. Gut microbiota imbalances. We're learning more and more about how critical that gut environment is.
For digestion, immunity, even mood.
Precisely. It's foundational for so much. So seeing a disruption there from these plastics is definitely a red flag.
Feels like a growing list of issues.
It kind of is. The study also mentioned, dysregulated genetic pathways.
Meaning genes aren't working quite as they should.
Yeah, like the normal activity is being thrown off. And also abnormal triglyceride levels.
Okay, that's linked to heart health concerns.
Correct. Plus, disrupted molecular biomarkers, basically. Indicators at the molecular level showing things are off.
And one more thing that really stood out. Altered circadian rhythms, or body clocks.
Yes. That one is particularly fascinating, I think. Our internal clocks regulate so much sleep, hormones, metabolism.
Everything seems tied to it.
It really does. And one of the researchers, Yongfeng Deng, actually said, let me see if I can get this right, prolonged low-dose exposure to starch-based microplastics can lead to a broad spectrum of health impacts, particularly perturbing circadian rhythms and disrupting glucose and lipid metabolism.
Wow. Perturbing circadian rhythms. That quote really sums up the potential breadth of the impact, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests even low doses over time could mess with these really core biological processes.
And we have to remember, microplastics, regardless of type, are just so prevalent. It's not like we can easily avoid them.
Not at all. They're in drinking water, food. I even read about them being found in, IV fluids in
Oh,
hospitals.
seriously, 5E fluids.
Yeah. So even if these plant-based ones were meant to be better environmentally, they still break down into particles we end up consuming.
The sheer exposure level is a huge part of the problem.
And it connects to wider issues, too. The report mentioned just briefly the other impacts of microplastic pollution generally.
Right, not just health, things like the environment, the economy.
Exactly. Polluted swimming spots hurting tourism or contamination in soil impacting farming. It's a multi-layered problem.
It really brings it home that this isn't just some lab finding. It has real-world ripple effects. Now, we should be fair. The researchers themselves pointed out this is just the start, right?
Absolutely critical point. They were clear. This is only the first study looking specifically at consuming starch-based microplastics.
So we need to keep it in perspective. It's early days.
Very much so. They stress that much more research is needed. We need to understand how these particles actually behave inside the body. Do they break down? What are the truly long-term effects?
So this study opens the door, raises some serious flags, but it's not the final word.
Not at all, just the beginning of figuring this particular angle out.
Okay, so given all this,
Yeah.
what can you, listening right now, actually do? It feels a bit daunting.
It can, yeah. But the report did offer some practical thoughts. It comes back to reducing our overall microplastic exposure, whatever the source.
Trying to limit the input, basically.
Pretty much. And this is where individual actions can add up. Cutting down on single-use plastics is a big one.
Like disposable containers, plastic grocery bags, water bottles. The usual suspects.
Those are key. Choosing reusable options, coffee cups, bags, water bottles that genuinely reduces the amount of plastic that ends up out there, potentially breaking down and getting back to us.
It's about those conscious choices, day to day, opting for glass or metal or wood instead of plastic when you can.
Exactly. Looking at packaging, it's not about achieving zero plastic overnight. That's probably impossible for most of us.
Right, it's about progress, not perfection. Small, consistent changes.
Those can make a real difference collectively over time.
It's just so complex, isn't it? We try to solve one problem, the petroleum plastic waste.
And potentially stumble into another set of health concerns with the alternative. It really shows why we need constant, thorough, scientific digging into the materials we rely on.
Okay, so let's try and wrap up this deep dive. The main takeaway seems to be, while plant starch plastics came about with good intentions, aiming to be better for the planet.
This initial research suggests they might carry their own significant health risks when ingested as microplastics.
Risks that could affect, well, a whole range of things. Organ health, metabolism, gut balance, even our fundamental body clocks.
Yeah, it's quite a list of potential impacts.
And it just underscores that finding truly safe and sustainable alternatives is really complicated.
It's an ongoing journey full of twists and turns. What looks like a fix in one area might create issues elsewhere. Continuous research is key.
Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe for you to chew on. Given what we're starting to learn, what does this mean for how much we rely on all plastic materials, even the ones marketed as eco?
And what other questions should we be asking? Not just about environmental fate, but about the intimate relationship between these materials and our own bodies.
It's a powerful reminder that the stuff making up our world really matters, down to the microscopic level. We need to keep asking those critical questions.